Hello Keith, great to see you again. Thanks for taking the time to do this for us.
It's not a problem.
Great, thank you. I'm really keen to talk about the wireless LAN deployment in a little bit of detail about some of the considerations that you have. And I think for the benefit of our viewers, my view is that a lot of our viewers of this content, they're going to be largely working on wireless LAN deployments in terms of planning and design and configuration for schools and colleges and hospitals and similar types of office environments. For me, this is really interesting because you've got a lot of commonality between what you're doing here, but also a lot of fairly major differences as well, I think. So I really want to explore that in some detail.
Okay, so let's take the common areas. If we, like all businesses, we have offices. So we split the stadium into two areas we call bowl, and that's anything within the bowl or external. And then we have back of office. A subsection of the back of office, like all businesses, has offices, and the offices effectively are really easy to deploy with. If we talk about other areas like the hospitality and the lounges, that's when we get into a different area. Happy to allude on that if you want me to.
Yeah, please. That'd be great.
So before Extreme came on board, I think we had around 380, and then the figures, and now our back of office is around 450. So the back offices in terms of like office space is really easy. Simple AP replacement. The part where the guys might get more interest out of it is where we've got more high density usage. So let's just talk about terms I would use. So a concourse to me is what most people, if they come to a GA or general mission, a large, big, long space, quite high ceilings, loads of bars. So that's where we've stepped up the number of APs we had previously. So that's why the delta's gone from around 380 to 450. And then we've got areas like these lounge spaces that again had APs beforehand. Now a lot of them were replaced. The difference between what we've got previously to what we have now is the APs have been attenuated to not leak through into the bowl, because we've got our own, APs here. And before you want to optimize the APs for only certain usage. So you saturate the usage in the lounge, or in these ones, these are boxes, compared to the bowl. You don't want them interfering.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay,
that's interesting. And the bowl itself looks like it's the real business end of things, I think, in terms of.
Yeah. So if we talk about numbers, top end numbers gives an idea. So we've got around 1,100 APs across the whole of Anfield. Around 650 are in the bowl. There's around 37. So sorry to get into the numbers. About 37 on the outside. They're omnidirectional. They basically on your walk up, you'll start picking up the fan Wi-Fi. And then we had most of the APs are focused at seat space. So hence why you look up and you can see the APs. If we look across there, we can see some ones that have been put in place, and on the ones that are actually in camera shot now, these grey ones. But also we had some historical ones that are about 9 that are purely for the media, that are around the perimeter, around the back of the goals.
Okay.
So there's quite a large number, 620 APs being deployed. That's a lot of cabling to put. So it's something, another figure just to put that in place is, out of all the APs that have been deployed, we've used something like 42 kilometres of cabling.
Okay, wow.
So there's if you're talking to people who are just doing a school or a few rooms, that's a lot of cabling to put in place. So there's a scale of difference. As you imagine, this is now looking after 60,000 people on a match day.
Yeah, big numbers. And I'm looking at the APs behind us here. So I can see just from the sheer numbers that are behind us that there is a high concentration.
Yeah. So again, if we talk about those, the considerations we have to make on these APs is we've got two things going on. We've want to be able to deliver a great signal for our fans. So we've got our fan Wi-Fi, but also if we look back and what's in camera, we've got people looking out from the hospitality and they can't have their line of sight blocked. So there's kind of a mix hence why they've gone at height and they're put as low as profile. But then we also have challenges with, if you look around, like most stadiums, we've got branding and we can't have those clashing. So this is where we kind of get this halfway house where we put the APs in. They are noticeable, but they're noticeable to a point where, well, you've got to be noticeable, because otherwise they can't be utilised. I.e., you can't support 100 people in these seats if they're not close to them.
Yeah, no, fascinating stuff. I can see the compromise between mounting location, aesthetics, and mounting location in terms of delivering the service. And fascinating to see some of the access points are even color coded to match in with the background.
And that's where there's a challenge between design and, so if you'll get your designers from Extreme will come in and say, well, actually, for the best place to get our coverage for our fans, they need to be here. And then obviously we've got branding, so there's a play-off there. We've got considerations on height and safety. So again, for me to get sign off of those, we had to go to our partners and make sure that they were happy, and then they have to be colour matched. Hence why you look across there, and the ones, some, I think not on this one, but maybe on the tier above, where they're all red, so you can't see them. And hopefully you can see them if you really, really look, but most of the time you can't.
Yeah. No, they're not obvious. I'm looking for them so I can see them, but if you were not paying attention, then I think you wouldn't. And I can see some of the mountings are very, very specific in terms of the mounting angle. I'm guessing the height and the weight was a consideration for anything on the roof.
Yeah. So again, to surface the ones that are on the upper tiers, you're looking at, we didn't have the luxury, we can't put them under the seats because of safety constraints and licenses. So the only way to deliver the model is to put them at height. But we then have the considerations of, well, they need to be at a height that doesn't affect what we call line of sight, i.e. anybody who knows pitch levels needs to be able to see all the action. None of the goals can be impeded in terms of the view. So that's where we put them all in, and to keep that low profile, they've all got bespoke fixtures effectively to put the APs on. And that's when you've got consideration on weight, because there's quite a lot of them.
No, I can see the numbers. Yeah, that must be a lot to think about and plan.
Well, it took a while, but
the results are worth it.
Yeah. Again, it's the aesthetics, it's the design, and then it's safety. And then after you've gone through all those different iterations, you can put them in place, and then you bring the service on, and the surface is great. So.
Yeah, no, I've noticed, and from being here today, it works exceptionally well.
And to a certain extent, that's all we need.
No, indeed, yeah. And it's plainly a very high density environment in terms of the numbers of usage. I anticipate from conversations we've had that the number of users are going to ramp up as the...
Yeah, I mean, it started around 8,000 people using it, and I think towards the end of last season, it might have been up to about 16,000. And maybe that will grow. We tend to notice high usage in the downtime, so before the match and then at half time.
Right.
And then a lot of time in the match, people don't use as much as you expect, because at the end of the day, the action's on the pitch.
That's not what they're here for.
No.
Okay, and I'm obviously in the bowl predominantly directional focused antennas in order to keep the cell.
Yeah, I mean, there's a golden rule. I think they said for 100 people they wanted the service, and they would be, out of those 100 people, maybe half would be on they would be in service and on that AP at one point. And there's also considerations about continuity, because not only when you sat down, but also if you come up from outside, you're on fan Wi-Fi, that we can maintain that signal and people are seamless and they walk in. So we don't want to drop areas. So that's another thing about the bowl has great service, even to when it goes in back house. So, we were looking at that people walk up, they're on the fan Wi-Fi, they come into a concourse, they're still on the fan Wi-Fi, they walk out from the concourse into their seat, they're still on fan Wi-Fi. That level of continuity, it's not there. It may be before the match, they're checking the scores elsewhere, because that's what football fans do. They'll be like, well, how else is, I don't know, one of our competitors getting on? I won't use their names, but you can imagine.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, fascinating stuff. So fan experience and delivering that fan experience, the continuity, the consistency of services, really key.
But also, what we delivered here is not just for fan Wi-Fi. So there's a number of SIDs, so the different ones that service different audiences. So we've got fan Wi-Fi. We've then got a media Wi-Fi that's used heavily by the Premier League and the media. During match day, there has to be a platinum service. Then we have a SID that is purely for our dedicated payment devices or anything that's really secure. Then we've got in the lounges, we've got their own Wi-Fi, again slightly different, because they can guarantee service. And then we've got our own staff Wi-Fi as well. So you've got a number of SIDs, and we try and limit the number of SIDs broadcast on these APs. So some APs are the ones I spoke about on the pitch. There's 9 for the media. They only broadcast media. That's it.
Right.
They don't broadcast anything else. So they might broadcast C zone, but we don't like. So the majority of the ones for the bowl, they will only be fan Wi-Fi.
Okay, I understand.
So it's different areas depending on which SID we would broadcast, because the more SIDs you have, there's degradation in service, I believe.
For sure. And some of those services are truly mission critical then. They're
On match day, yeah, like media, Premier League, we need to keep those people happy.
Yeah, no, I can well imagine.
Yeah, I mean the fans, obviously we want them to have a great service, but that's not the same as the mission cricket services that we would have like on staff Wi-Fi, because on a match day you might have something like 800 stewards here for safety and all these type of operational stuff that you need to keep going. 60,000 people turn up on a match day. There's a lot of people to look after.
No, indeed. And I think it's easy to think of the stadium Wi-Fi as purely about the spectators, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a lot of people to support.
Yeah, no, indeed. And maybe some specifics then. So I'm guessing within the bowl itself, it's 5 gigahertz only, because that's the only way you can deploy the density.
So in here it is. There are other areas, as we've spoken before, about where we've had to keep 2.4. They're more to do with historical equipment that we have monitoring on that we can't replace.
Okay.
I won't bore you, but there's like the fridges. We monitor their temperatures because they go off. They're on. Yeah, but because the food was spoiled. So there are some areas where we've put the C zone on certain APs on 2.4. And we believe we can do that configuration.
Okay, well that's good. And I noticed when I logged in that the authentication experience was very, very simple. I mean, plainly a lot of thought has been given to ensuring that the user experience was as simple and as effective as possible to drive up the usage. So that found that really impressive.
Yeah, it's just click and go, put your email in, go.
Yeah.
And hopefully the way we've configured it is that, this is where you get into operational differences on phones, but what the really, essentially, if you've remembered it, you've clicked to remember it, it should stay there for a season. So if you come back to your seat, you should be on the fan Wi-Fi, and then we kind of clear it down towards the end of the season. But that's where you don't even notice. You've walked into the building, the Wi-Fi's on for you. Start checking, Sky Sports or BBC or whatever, what other media outlet that you might want to check.
Other media outlets are available.
yeah. You've got that continuity of service. And that's what you're looking for, that people... fans, Wi-Fi is one of those things that it becomes, its own success. People just don't notice it once it works. They only notice it when it doesn't work.
No, indeed,
yeah. And so it'll kind of build, like we said before with the numbers, it was 8,000 to begin with, and it's now, 16, 17,000. It'll be interesting to see where we go to with Wi-Fi and what we do with it.
Yeah, I'll be fascinated. And obviously, you want people on it. Word of mouth helps. Fans tell their friends that the Wi-Fi is good, you should start using it, and it's an organic growth, I'm guessing, in terms of the usage and utilisation.
Yeah, that's true.
That's good. So I'm guessing that a lot of the project work was around not just the physical deployment, but the planning side of things. So I'm kind of fascinated by the planning cycle.
Yeah, so like I said before, that we started with effectively around, 350, 360 APs. They were all what we would call back of house. So we already had some on the external. We had ones in the offices, we had one in the concourse, but the Wi-Fi had grown organically. People had asked for Wi-Fi, they put an AP up. They hadn't done a bit of consideration, is that the right place to put it? Do we need more? What bandwidth? So, Extreme, when they first came on board, did like a dot diagram, or, we provided a dot diagram, and then they went round and going, well, yeah, that's a good place to put them, but you need more here. So that's where the number went up from where we started, and then we effectively did the back of house first, and then we did the bowl next, basically doing stand by stand, because it's so much number. It's not only about, like we said before, about the design saying, well, that's where it needs to go. You've then got the aesthetics, you've then got weights, you've then got safety. They're all the things that once you take a design, they need to start getting ticked off.
Is it practical?
Yeah. It's a lot easier to deploy internally, and once you've got sign off to stand up on a ladder, once you've got the cable, but places out up above us, drilling into concrete, working in between matches. That's the other thing to bear in mind, the difference between somebody who works in a school. They might have 6 weeks over the summer in a small environment. Well, we were deploying this through season. So between matches, you've got tiny windows to get people up on ladders and drill holes. So those are the considerations that you might have targeted an area. You then got to work in a very concentrated way. Right, we're just going to do this line in those 3 days.
Okay.
So they're the different considerations you need to make.
And the logistics sounds like it's a big...
Well, even just storing the equipment.
Well, So when the equipment turned up,
we had to take over a purpose area, and then, you know, I can't remember, there was something like, off the top of my head, there was 4,000 separate different items that turned up that we had to audit and make sure that they did turn up. You know, from the APs, I can't, you know, like I said, there's 1,100 APs, or 1,109 APs, and we've got spares off the back of that, but that's a lot of AP.
And you've got mounting brackets and all of the other.
Yeah, and then when you buy all the bespoke stuff, you have to put that somewhere, and it has to be, you know, left in a place, and you're running with season. So in some ways, having the Anfield Road being built, you know, we had some space we could put stuff, but again, considerations you might not have when you're just doing an office.
Yeah, I can imagine there's, as we said, quite a lot of differences, but also some common ground there.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, the same thing goes by, doesn't it? I.e., do I want an AP? Is the AP in the right place? Is it going to service the right audience? I mean, that audience might change slightly with what type of SID, but at the end of the day, you want somebody to go on a Wi-Fi and connect. It depends what they want out of that Wi-Fi. Comes difference here. There's different user sets and the constraints of where we need to put stuff. I think that illustrates. So although there are differences, it's still a design process and it's still an audience that we need to come to. So yes, complexities, but it's still the same kind of linear path. You know, I will deploy.
And at the end of the day, it's still Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it works.
So change of scenery. Not quite so pleasant down here, I'm afraid, but
Warmer.
bit warmer. So we talked a lot about the Wi-Fi network. Plainly, the Wi-Fi network has to connect to somewhere, both for power and connectivity and all of those things. So we're here with some of the edge switching. Just got a little bit of insight into what happened there.
Yeah, I know, not the most fascinating image possible, but I mean, we definitely kept on brand with the purple edge switches. It is worth, I mean, these go back to a core, a part of the infrastructure that we put in place, and a lot of work went into this, is we just didn't just deploy, I say the royal way here, because I didn't do this, I just happened to be managing it and made sure they got done. We just didn't just upgrade the core necessary to go into the controllers for the Wi-Fi. We took an opportunity to effectively replace our entire core. So that's all our VLANs, all our other edge switches I can see on the back of us, but other services. So the team did that in parallel before we started moving the Wi-Fi over. So imagine from an operational viewpoint, a lot of our network and servers for other locations, because we operate a wider network out of Anfield, but also for our offices in like London or distribution centre, our office in Chapel Street, all those rely on the core that sits at Anfield, and that was upgraded and no one noticed. People only ever know is infrastructure when it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. Okay, well, impressive, even more impressive job. But good to see the complete picture of the Wi-Fi. Talk about the wireless edge and talk a wired edge, and talk about the wired core as well. So glad to see.
Okay, you're welcome.
Great job, Keith. I mean, I'm been really impressed with using it. I've been really impressed with how it's been physically deployed, and the feedback we've had from talking to staff and users has been very positive. So great job.
Well, I can't take. I might have helped manage it, but it was a massive team effort, especially with calling out my infrastructure team. Did a lot of technical people behind it. So big team effort got us to this point. Right the way through to get this extreme partnership, to then get all the equipment. Well, there's lots of people involved. I just have to be able to take a head as a project manager. Got the joy to deliver it over a period of time. So you're welcome.
Well, please pass our thanks to all of them.
Okay, thank you.
For your time. Thank you very much.